Welcome to Active Love Adoptions podcast. I'm your host, Mackenzie Love, and today we are here with Mindy.
Hi, guys.
Hello. We're so happy you're here.
Yes, I am so happy to be here as well.
Are you?
I don't know.
I'm just kidding. We had to drag,
I have to think about that a little bit.
We've been begging Mindy to come on because
Since January, I think.
Since we started.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sick today, so I don't have an excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
No excuse.
No excuses.
So what we love about you is that you have a unique perspective on adoption because you're an adoptee, you're
That's
an
right.
adoptive mom, and now you're working with birth moms.
I am.
At the agency.
Yeah.
And you're Kathy's daughter.
I am Kathy's daughter.
You're Kathy's daughter and Heidi's sister, which she's not here today.
Yeah, I love that you looked over to the right as if she was
this
there.
Is where Heidi's supposed to be.
Happy birthday, shout out to Heidi.
It's her birthday today.
Yes, it
and
is.
she's sick, poor girl. So I know. What a bummer.
Yes.
It always happens on your
It's
birthday.
a good thing I didn't bring her birthday crown and sash and all that. I was
my
about to go
gosh,
to the
I wish
store
you would
and I
have.
called her and then I heard her voice and I'm like, oh, okay.
That is so funny. I was going to bring your flowers, but
Were
that
you?
would have been a lot better.
Oh, no.
A little crown and a little sash.
I think the flowers is a little more appropriate for her age, you know.
Oh, we're not going to talk about her age.
I was gonna make her wear the birthday girl crown.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? That would have been funny.
That would have been great.
So Heidi, you're missed and happy birthday.
Yes.
We wish you were here. But yeah, so where do you want to start? Maybe with your adoption story?
Sure, we can go there.
Okay.
So I am 44 years old. I've been raised here in Utah my whole life. I was adopted when I was 6.5 months old. So my parents are Kathy and Dieter Kunkel. And like Mackenzie said, Kathy is the founder of Active Love. And I like to tease that since there's 10 kids in our family and 8 of us were adopted, I was the first that was. And so, you know, it's kind of like an inside joke, but we're putting it out there.
Yeah.
That I'm the one that started the trend.
Yeah,
you know?
I was going to say.
It was such a great adoption experience. She needed to adopt more. And she's like, you know what? I want other people to have this experience as well.
I love that.
So anyways, I was 6.5 months old and I was in an orphanage in Korea. As far as information on my birth parents, not a lot. What the social workers in Korea had typed up and was translated. And what they had said is that my birth mother, she went into labor preterm. And we'll back up. She was married and she had 2 kids. So somewhere out there, I have half siblings. And I don't know if they were divorced or separated. They never said specifically. So in that time, she moved away and went to live with her brother in the country. But in Korea, the country is really not the country.
Right.
It's still kind of like the city. It's kind of like Salt Lake.
Right.
But to them, it's really small.
Yeah.
And lived there. And in that time, which I don't know how long that was, she met my birth father. My birth father, the way they described him is that he was a traveling businessman.
Okay.
I'm assuming he was Korean because I've done the DNA test. So I'm pretty much 100% Korean. I'm like,
Really?
Yeah, I think 3% is like Japanese.
Okay.
And
That's so interesting.
yeah, so anyways, I don't know if they fell in love or if it was like a fling. I'm assuming it was more. And I'll get to that in a sec. So she had me and was pregnant, went into preterm labor, delivered me, but then started having labor complications due to my birth and was hemorrhaging. And so I think that she must have known that she was dying because the social worker was getting all this information.
Right.
And so anyways, while she's telling the social worker, this is how I imagine it, her story, she ended up passing away. So I went back to Korea, actually. So my husband and I We've been married for 20 years now. And when my oldest son, I have 4 children, my oldest son, he was 1 year old. We went back to Korea. And I also have a younger sister, Kenzie, as well.
Yeah.
She also is Korean. So she had just graduated high school. So it was kind of like her senior trip.
Yeah.
And we went down to Korea, back to the homeland.
Yes.
And we went to the agency that we were both actually adopted from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, serendipitously.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
we were able to open up our file. And in that file, there was more information that was not in the original paperwork that I had growing up. So a couple of pieces that were missing that I didn't realize in the story is that my birth father, he must have found out that she had gone into preterm labor because shortly after she had passed and her brother had signed the paperwork to have me go into an orphanage. And there's actually like a paper, there was a note that he had handwritten with his fingerprint. Unfortunately, it wasn't very legible because of the photocopy and the fingerprint. It's just not, you can't decipher what it is or who it is.
Right.
Otherwise, we probably could have tracked him down that way.
Yeah.
But anyways, what the paperwork had said is that shortly after he had signed the paperwork, my birth father had ran into the hospital, went to go see my birth mother. She had already died. And he wasn't able to see me either because I had already been relinquished to an orphanage.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't know that. So that little piece of information makes me wonder, maybe they were in love,
Yeah.
right? Because if it was just a fling, I don't think he probably would have done that,
Right.
right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
So I wasn't
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, and I would, now as a child, I wasn't interested in ever going back and to Korea. It just wasn't interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do I want to go back to Korea? I'm here in America. That's my culture now. This is where my family is. But as I've gotten older and I started having children, then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do want to know my roots.
Yeah.
And maybe it was something that I kind of pushed down a little bit, and I'm realizing as I'm getting older that definitely probably was what I was doing,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
just facing the realities of things. When you're a little kid, and I'm full Korean, and I grew up in a neighborhood and a community that was mostly all Caucasian.
Yeah.
I think there was one other kid in my school that was a minority, but she also was adopted, and she wasn't in the same grade. She was a couple years younger.
Yeah.
And so I was teased a lot. I was made fun of a lot. And, there was a little boy in 6th grade and I was in kindergarten, and he would punch me in the stomach every day over by the garbage can
Oh my gosh.
after school and call me a stupid Chinese girl. And now,
Mindy,
being the adult that I am, I would, been like, I'm not even Chinese.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell anybody that was happening
Mindy, I'm
until
sorry.
I think it was like right at the last week of school. I broke down and I cried. And my sister Heidi and Shannon, they're like, who did
was it? Yeah.
Who was
We're
it?
gonna go take care
And
of
they
that.
had 3-wheelers at the time.
Yeah.
And they rode down, unbeknownst to me, down to the school on these 3-wheelers. And they asked, where is he? Where is he?
Yeah.
And I pointed him out. And they chased after him on the 3-wheelers.
Oh my god. I can totally imagine Heidi
Yeah.
and Shannon doing that.
I never saw him again.
Good. They took care of it for you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
When I was a little girl, I was really shy. And it's funny because people that know me now, they're like, you were really shy? And I'm like, yeah, I was really shy. I was quiet. And, I think that was my coping method, my way of dealing with being different.
Yeah.
Kids can be kind of brutal,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And when you're a quiet girl that's a little bit unsure of yourself, you kind of go inward.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I did. But, shout out to the school aides and, the recess aides. Because to me, they were my friends. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of friends because I was shy. And it wasn't that I didn't have opportunity. Kids would actually ask to play with me. But I would get nervous. And so I would just sit on the sidewalk and I just talk to the teacher's aides.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the power of, people that work in the school system, people that are involved with youth. You think you don't make a difference, but you do make a difference. And I can attest to that. Yeah. So anyways, I was adopted. Sorry, I'm like going all over the place, guys.
No, I love it.
So so I was adopted when I was 6.5 months old. And, my mom, when I was like probably early elementary school age, about 8 or 9, she had known some people that had adopted children also from Korea. And there was Korean camps and things.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was just like, Korean camp? I don't want to go to a Korean camp. What is this? It scared me. I don't know. It was weird. And
I think that's probably the hardest part, right? Is like not feeling like you're comfortable, like at recess and stuff, being quiet, and then wanting to go to something that
all of a sudden I'm not the minority.
Exactly. And then no, I get that. That would be hard.
And it's interesting because I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I threw you for a loop there, didn't I?
Well, I think one of the big things, there's a couple things that kids would always ask me. One was, where are you from? I thought that was so weird, because I'm like, what do you mean, where am I from? Obviously, you know where I'm from. I'm from Utah.
Right.
We're in the same school. Yeah. Here I am, Yeah. But I knew what they meant.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Where is your origin? What is your race? But it was as a kid, I was afraid. I don't know why I was afraid, Maybe it's because of the kid that used to hit me.
Yeah.
Or the kids that wouldn't sit by me or make fun of me. And maybe I was just afraid of, being made fun of again.
Yeah. No,
so I would just say, guess. That's what I say. Where do you think I'm from?
Guess.
Yeah, just guess.
Yeah.
Nobody guessed Korea. Yeah. Back then, the big Asian countries were Japan and China.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other question is don't you want to meet your real parents? And can I just tell you that I hate that term?
I do too.
I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what does that mean?
What's a real parent? What's your definition of a real parent?
What is the definition of a real parent? And apparently, to majority of people, when they say that, they're meaning biological.
Right.
And for me, a real parent is tangible, is there for you, that reads you bedtime stories, that knows your favorite food, that runs you around all over the place, that wipes your tears and puts on Band-Aids. That's a real parent.
Yeah.
Not that I'm discrediting, biology and the beauty of pregnancy and giving birth, because like I had mentioned earlier, I have 4 kids. And so I've had 2 biologically, and then I've adopted 2. And so it kind of goes in this order. So biological, he is 18. His name is Eli.
He's so cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then 14, his name is Chase. He's adopted. Yeah. He was born in Georgia. Lucas, so right after we had Chase, he was like 2 or 3 months. My husband we were making tacos for the evening, and he's sauteing the meat, and I run to the sink. I'm going to throw up because I'm like, oh my gosh, the last time this happened, I was pregnant. Eric's like, no way are you pregnant? We've been trying at the time, it was probably almost 4 years by then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think I'm pregnant. But now we're totally content and happy. And we have our baby,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And nope, sure enough, I was pregnant. He went to the dollar store, I think.
The dollar store ones are my favorite
Dollar store saved the day.
Yep.
And I was pregnant. So I was like,
crazy.
wow.
So how far apart are they?
They're 13 months.
Okay.
So it's not too
Yeah,
bad.
so you had Irish twins.
Yeah.
Twins.
Yeah.
Twinge.
Yep. And then, so Lucas is 13, and then Liela, she is 8. And we were not planning on Liela. Liela, and if you know my daughter, Liela,
Yeah.
it just makes sense. Of course she's going to come in with a bang.
Yeah.
Of course she's
My
going
last
to
one is just like
work
that.
her way in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I cannot imagine my life without her now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
get
blessed
that.
our life in so many ways. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, all your kids are adorable. I follow you on social media. So.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so everybody, because they made blood, means so much. I thought, yeah, blood must mean something. So
Yeah.
when I have a child that's biological, it's gonna be out of this world.
Yeah.
You know? Apparently, I mean, that's what everybody says. You know,
Yeah.
this is the ultimate bond to be biologically related, to be blood. And so when I had Eli, I mean, it was amazing. But he's my son, and I'm his mother. But when I had Chase, I was like, wait a minute. There's no
Feels
difference.
the same. Yeah.
I'm like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
So with Eli, it was more of a physical, my body's changing, making physical changes, hormones, all of that,
All the good stuff.
all the good stuff. And then with Chase, it was emotional. It was being vulnerable.
Yeah.
It
it's
was
a whole different ballgame.
putting yourself out there, and it was quite the experience now being on the other side of adoption. I've always been a caseworker coordinator on the other side,
Right.
And that really helped me to be a lot more empathetic with the adoptive families, because there's a lot of sacrifice and vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that people don't really realize. A lot of times people will see the business part of it all, but it's so much more than that.
I agree.
Yeah, there's a big journey that leads each adoptive family to the point where by the time they actually contact the agency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you always want to adopt?
I wasn't opposed to adopting. I just didn't think that it was necessarily in my cards.
Yeah.
If I was able to have children, then fine.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it wasn't like necessarily like in the plans. I wasn't like told my husband before we got married, I want to adopt. I'm like, if it happens, happens.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it went. But now I know that a real parent is the one that's there and takes care of you. So this is how I see love. Okay, and it's interesting. Your last name is Love.
I know.
It's the perfect name. It's like a movie star name.
Yes.
But
That's why I married him.
I don't believe that love is something that you fall into or fall out of, like in an intimate relationship. So there's many facets of love, right?
Yes.
There's intimate love, there's friendship love, there's a parental love, all those different kinds. But I believe that love is something that you choose in all the areas. And
I totally agree.
yeah. And I think that true love is sacrifice. If I broke it down to its skeleton or its bones, how do I know that I really love somebody? When I'm willing to sacrifice for them. And it doesn't feel like a sacrifice.
Right.
Sometimes
it's
it
you're
does.
willing to do.
Yeah, I'm willing to do. And I want to do. And so I think that the reason why people maybe feel like biological is such a big deal is like people will say, well, I started loving them as soon as I knew I was pregnant. And I'm like, yeah. And probably the reason why is because you started sacrificing.
Exactly.
You start changing what you eat. You start trying to sleep a little bit better. You go to the doctors now. You're taking prenatal vitamins. You're sacrificing.
Exactly.
So that love is starting then. With adoption, you don't have this definite baby that is coming.
Right.
But somewhere inside of you, it starts stirring. And adoptive families, you can relate to this. Somehow, it's either in your mind or your heart or both. And you're like, I think I'm supposed to adopt.
Yeah.
And it kind of starts as a seed that's stirring around.
Oh, yeah. I think every adoptive parent that has come on the podcast, they've talked about that.
Have they?
They've said, we waited like 2 years. We were dragging out the paperwork. And then one day we just knew that was the day we need to turn it in.
This is it.
This is when it's going to happen.
Right.
And then it happens.
Yes.
So I totally agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really believe that, families are brought together in all different shapes and forms. And with adoption, it's definitely divine.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So that's my perspective on real parents and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess I could talk about my 2 children that I have adopted.
Yeah.
And their stories.
I'd love to hear about that.
Okay. So, like I said earlier, I have my oldest son, Eli, who's 18, and then my second son, who is 14. And his name is Chase. And ever since he's been a baby, we have been chasing him. I'm like,
So
Eric, Eric is my husband. I'm like, Eric, what were you thinking in naming him that?
So funny.
You set us up. But, so Chase, so after Eli, my husband and I, we met on the tracks.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, we met on the tracks. So I was finishing up my last semester at the University of Utah. My husband, so I'm a cougar.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I graduated in 97. He graduated in 99. But when it comes to actual months, we're like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Anyways, he had just transferred over to the U. So here we are. We're both at the U. And we both are on the tracks. And I was late for class. And, this is like a great way of just explaining my husband and I in a nutshell. So I'm late for class, okay? And he is not late for class. In fact, he doesn't even have class that day. He was going to help a friend in Salt Lake who had just moved out into the area to kind of get set up here. So here we are on the tracks. He's behind me, kitty corner. He sees me. I'm reading. And I get off at the Rice Eccles Stadium. He pops up, runs up to me.
Yeah.
My husband, he's a funny guy. Sorry for all this backstory.
No, I love it. No, I want to hear it.
Okay. So he's a funny guy. I mean, he's in physical stature. He's slender. He's small. I mean, he's taller than me.
Yeah.
And he's aging like a fine wine. Let's just put that out there.
They always do. It's not fair.
Yeah. So anyway, he runs up to me and he says, hey. He's like, do I know you from somewhere? I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't think so. Yeah. Maybe we went to the same high school. What's your name? And he's like, Eric Morgan. I'm like, well, Eric Morgan, what high school did you go to? And he says, Jordan. And I'm like, oh boy. Strike one.
Yeah.
I went to Alta.
Yeah, exactly.
These are rival schools. I'm like, I don't know, bud, but apparently, we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
So he my husband is bold. People look at him and they think, oh, he's quiet.
Yeah.
But he's bold.
Yeah.
When he wants something, he goes for it. That's what I love about him. One of the many things. But I had to go off to class because, again, I was late. So I'm like, and this is how he tells it, because I don't remember this part.
Yeah.
But the sun was rising, it's early in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was in January, late January. And I flipped my hair back and the sun was rising behind me. And I said, well, Eric Morgan, the next time I see you, we won't be strangers anymore.
Oh.
And then we ended up running into each other again. Of course, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
20 years later.
Yeah.
And he walked me to class that time and asked me out. But that time, I had a busy schedule. I was busy.
Oh, yeah.
Legit busy. And if Eric is listening,
legit busy.
He will oppose, okay? He'll say that I blew him off. And he says that I was busy every day and there was just no possibility that we could ever get together. That's not how it was. I just said, I'm busy this week. So maybe Saturday. Give me a call.
Yeah.
He didn't hear that.
No.
So he never gave me a call. But I was okay with it. I'm like, whatever. But we kept running into each other after that everywhere. If you've seen You've Got Mail, which is actually pathetically one of my favorite movies. I can quote it. I can quote it.
I love that movie. Yeah. It's a good one.
So we kept running into each other, kind of like a You've Got Mail type.
Serendipity.
Yeah. And so finally he was just teasing. He's like, well, Mindy, he's like, I'm like, Eric, are you stalking me?
Yeah.
And he's like, maybe I am. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
But he ended up moving into, to my ward. So the church that I went to.
Yeah.
And he was standing there smiling. I'm like, wow, Eric Morgan, you are stalking me.
Yeah, you went.
And he's like, actually, I'm not. This is actually my ward, my church. And I said, it's been my ward or church for like, a couple years.
Yeah.
So anyways, he followed me around like a little puppy dog. I'm kidding. And,
no, you're not.
No, I'm not. And then he asked me out on Valentine's Day, which is so weird, but it was so great.
Oh.
And so I'll never forget our
that.
first date. And the rest is history. So why did I go into that really long story? I don't know. I just wanted to share it. So Chase, so everything was planned. Like things always went quick with Eric and I. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Because we met in the end of January, but we went on our first date on February 14th. We were engaged. When do you think?
A month later.
It was a month later. Yeah. And then we got married 2 months after that.
Oh my gosh. So it was fast.
It was fast.
Yeah.
And we were busy. I was taking 24 credit hours at school. He was taking 21, But so our dating consisted of like doing laundry and going grocery shopping, doing homework.
Yeah.
And so when we decided that we wanted to have kids, it was pretty quick. We were married maybe like 6 months and we're like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm done with college. We had a house.
That was the next step.
Yeah. And I got pregnant within about 6 months. That's pretty typical, I think, standard.
Yeah.
And so, we were expecting the same thing for number 2.
Yeah.
Right? That didn't happen. It didn't happen. And we tried and people are like, well, do you think you can't get pregnant? I'm like, well, obviously I know I can.
Yeah.
Because I had Eli.
Exactly.
But it's not happening the second time around. And one day I was in my living room and I looked up at this picture on my wall. It was a family photo of the 3 of us. And I looked at it and just for a second it flashed and it changed. And then I saw my husband and I, Eli, but he was older. And there was 2 kids that were African American or Black.
Wow.
A girl and a boy.
Yeah.
And so it was a pretty big moment for me.
Yeah, I would say.
And so I had called my sister, Shannon, who also works at the agency. And she's in between Heidi and I. She at the time answered the birth mom line. And she's like, oh my gosh, Minnie, that's so crazy. There was a birth mom that had just called and she has a little girl that's like 3 and a little boy that's like 3 or 4 months. And she wants the place.
Oh my god.
And I was like, whoa, maybe those are the kids.
Right.
And so I called my mom, tell her the story, and we're now on the track of adoption.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a cool experience to have.
Yeah. So we do that, but then it ends up not being, we meet up with her, we talk to her. So she ends up liking us, seeing our profile.
Yeah.
We get all our paperwork and everything ready. We got it ready fast.
Yeah.
But that's because that's how we roll.
I was gonna say that's how you guys work. I love it.
And so we ended up talking to her on the regular. I think she was due in November, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And I had worked with birth moms a lot before when I was in college. And when I talked to her, I told my husband, I'm like, you know what? I don't think she understands what adoption is. I think that she thinks it's just like kind of like a glorified babysitter.
Right.
I think she's just overwhelmed right now, but ultimately is a really good parent.
Yeah.
But just needs a break.
Yeah.
But I am not in that position. I actually want a baby.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that was my concern. And she did actually decide to not place her children, which I think was for the best. Yeah. Really. But it was heartbreaking, nonetheless.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
And so a lot of crying in my closet. That was my crying place.
That's my crying place.
Is it?
I like my closet. Yeah.
Yeah. In the crying.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Eric would find me sometimes and he would cuddle with me as I bawled my eyes out. Because we were... So through all this process, we actually didn't originally go the route with my mom and her agency.
Yeah.
We tried doing foster care. So we went through all the classes and we're about to be licensed to do foster care. But then we moved and there's some things that were a total, nuisance to do. And I was like, you know what? The state's main goal is reunification.
Right.
My main goal is I want another child.
Yeah.
So I don't think they line right now anyways.
Yeah.
So we decided to not pursue foster care anymore. We tried, my mom knew some attorneys in different states. There was some birth moms out in these states that were ready to place and were matched with a couple of birth moms and they didn't work out. And you know what? It was really devastating at the time.
Yeah.
But what I did learn is that after working with attorneys, and nothing against attorneys, but for me, having worked with an agency, I realized, wow, there's a lot of protection with an agency.
Right.
Yeah,
that's so true.
It's the standards and the things that are required of an agency to be licensed in the state is a lot more regimen than just an attorney doing an adoption.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think actually I may want to do the agency route.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew all the people that worked at the agency. I grew up with them.
Right.
So it just made sense. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that didn't work out. We, kind of were, well, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
So that was like in November. And then around Christmas time, I was in Kohl's. I don't know. I'm putting a plug in for him, I guess. And I was shopping for ties for the family. And my mom calls me, and she's just shook. She's feeling something.
Yeah.
And she's like, Mindy.
She's very intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, Mindy, I think this is your baby. I was like, well, we've been presented a few situations and they haven't worked out. And I just don't think that Eric's going to go for it.
Yeah.
Adoption can be expensive.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I get it. When you're looking at from the outside in, it's like, how could that be so much money? Mm-hmm. But it's like, I don't think people realize how much goes into it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a human being.
Right.
Their
entire life.
Yeah, we'll go to a car dealership and, put out a ton of money for a car or a house or something.
Yeah.
But it's like these are human beings that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have to be involved. Mm-hmm. It costs money. Mm-hmm. And anyways, so I'm like, oh man, I don't know. This is kind of a more costly adoption, the expenses and fees.
Yeah.
I don't know if Eric's going to go for it. I think he's going to say no, Mom. Mm-hmm. But when she read, she's like, well, let me just read to you, her non-identifying.
Yeah.
And so she did. She told me her interests. She told me her height and weight and all that.
Yeah.
And it was so weird because it matched up with my husband and I. And her interests matched up with ours. Mm-hmm. And one of her big things is she wanted a family that liked to travel, that could, give her child opportunities that she never could give.
Yeah.
That would read him stories at night, that would, be really involved in his school, all of that.
Yeah.
And I just knew. I'm like, this is the one. Mm-hmm. So I called Eric. I was so nervous. I'm still in the Thai section of Kohl's.
Yeah.
And I'm shaking. And I tell Eric the situation. And he's like, yeah, tell him that we're interested. I'm like, really? And this was like a lot more, the fees and expenses were a lot more than some of the other ones that he had said no to. So I was really surprised. So he also must have felt something.
Yeah.
I believe.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And she ended up choosing us.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
It was really awesome. And so I packed up a big suitcase shortly after that with all the cute little diapers. Diapers, newborn diapers
They're
are the
so
cutest
cute,
things on
right?
the planet Earth.
So true. I know.
So I packed up the suitcase. Eric, he stayed at home to work and to be with our Eli at the time was almost 4, I think 4. He was having a birthday because it was in Chase was born in January 6th.
Okay.
Eli's birthday is January 14th. So yeah, we were prepping for Eli's birthday. And so we were all ready to go to Georgia. I'm like in the bath, rub-a-dub-dub.
Yeah.
Get the call. She's in labor.
Oh my gosh.
I just start crying. I start calling family and friends. I'm still in the bathtub, scrubbing my hair. I have bubbles in my hair. It's going in my eyes. I don't care. I'm going to have my baby.
Yeah.
My baby is born.
Oh.
And so I flew out to Georgia on my own. And it's a long story, but I ended up being in Georgia, met birth mom. Initially it was really great. I met her at night. Mm-hmm. And we had a really good conversation. She was really bubbly, really talkative. I asked her if I could record our conversation, with a camcorder, like a camcorder.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how long. You think that, 14 years isn't a long time, but apparently it is because electronics has improved immensely since then.
Yeah.
But I had the full on, camcorder.
I remember those.
Like I held it on my shoulder. It was like a weight.
Yep.
It's
an exercise.
I had strong shoulder muscles all the time. No. And the reason why I asked if I could record it is because I said, being adopted, there's things that I just wondered. I was curious about. Like, what
was my birth like?
What was my birth like?
Yeah.
What kind of things did she crave when she was pregnant?
Right.
You know?
Little things like that.
Yeah. What did her voice sound like?
Yeah.
What did she look like? Did she look like me? Yeah. And so, she was totally on board. I recorded our conversation. She craved, what do you think she craved?
Pickles and peanut butter.
Oh, See, some things you just don't crave. That's just not right.
No.
No, she craved Taco Bell.
Oh my gosh. I would eat Taco Bell my entire pregnancies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was your place.
So funny. It was my thing. Tacos, Mexican food.
Okay, I'm putting another plug on Taco Bell.
Yeah. Yeah, Taco Bell. Although I do like Del Taco, so I'm going to plug them in.
No, she didn't say that, everybody. She didn't, because Del Taco, I don't know. I'm like almost afraid like I'm going to get in trouble by like dissing on Del Taco, but it may be cheaper, but it just ain't as great.
Is it cheaper? You think
Maybe.
cheaper there?
I don't know. I think so. Maybe not.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I eat both, so it's fine.
So anyway, second day, so that was late at night. Mm-hmm. I was able to hold Chase. It was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And that's when I, talked about earlier that I was like, there's no difference.
Yeah.
He is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really beautiful and sacred and to be with his birth mother together, the three of us. No one else. No distractions. It was quiet.
Yeah.
But the next day, so I was like, okay, she was going to sign the next day. Like, it was supposed to be scheduled at 11 a.m. in Georgia time. And so I was going to grab her breakfast. She wanted McDonald's. There was a McDonald's across from the hospital. Mm-hmm. So I got that. And then when I arrived at the hospital, it just wasn't something that she wanted to be involved in and do. anymore, or talk to me anyways. So she kind of had her back to me. And I asked her if she wanted her breakfast. She said I could just, put it on the nightstand beside her. And so I just stepped out into the lobby waiting room. She had told me the night before that, I want you to have like a nursery pass, like a wristband, so you can go in and see the baby and hold him. But the next day, I it just wasn't on the table anymore. I think she was going through a lot. The grief was coming in, and she had a rough night before, and so like an altercation with a boyfriend. So I understood. So I tried to make the best of it, and I recorded all around the hospital, talked it up with whoever was around, But the funny story is, so I remember the huge camcorder that I had. So the hospital that, I'm not going to say it because I'm almost afraid that I'm going to get busted out.
Trouble.
Yeah. But it was in a not a very good area of Georgia. And I guess funding wasn't very great for this hospital. So there was a lot of controversy with this hospital. This is my understanding. And news reporters would go to this hospital often and do news reports, because I guess the debate is if they should tear this hospital down or not. But a lot of people felt like this hospital had served underprivileged, low socioeconomic status families. And so it would not be good to take away this hospital. They just need more funding.
Okay.
So anyway, so they thought I was a news reporter. No. So here I am, innocent, total Utah mom,
Yeah. Just walking around with a camcorder.
Yeah. And I get grabbed by the hospital security.
Oh no.
Grabbed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They tear the camcorder out of my hands.
What?
Yeah, I'm not even being dramatic. Tear it out of my hands. I have one security guard on each arm, and they practically drag me back into the hospital. I was outside on the front.
Yeah.
Drag me in. So if we were living in our days, I'd be making like a TikTok or something.
Oh yeah, definitely.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you
Who
would.
am I joking? I'm not a TikTok person. So anyways,
blow it up.
They dragged me in, and they brought me to their little security office space. I don't know. And they had a little old TV, with a VCR, and they are ready to start. They pull the tape out.
Yeah.
And they're ready to destroy it. And I'm like,
no,
please
don't.
Yeah. This is everything to me. I'm like, I am just a mom. I'm ready to adopt my child.
Yeah.
This has footage of his birth mother and a very special conversation that we had last night.
Yeah.
These things are not replaceable.
Yeah.
And so finally, I'm like, just watch the video.
Yeah, I'm not lying.
And then you'll see. And that's what they did. And so they kind of apologized, gave me my tape.
Best ability.
I dusted the dirt off, the footprints.
Yeah.
I'm joking. No footprints. That part I'm exaggerating.
Maybe a little fingerprint though.
Fingerprints. Yeah. Maybe some arm grip marks. So anyway, I ended up, birth mom ended up signing that night. And I remember she walked by me, and I just looked at her. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
What do you say to a person? And, Mackenzie, I know that you have placed the baby for adoption. But I was just like, what do you say to a woman that has provided you another piece of your world? And I didn't. I fumbled it out, and I started crying, and I was just like, I said her name, and she looked at me with tear-filled eyes, and I was just like, thank you. That's all I could say.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that could come out. And she turned around and she said, Eli's going to be a really good brother. He's going to be a really good brother. My baby, he's he's going to have a good brother. He's going to have a good life. And then she turned around and started crying and walked away. And I was a wreck. And I was against the wall and I slid down like an old rom-com or something. And I just cried in my hands because I was so relieved.
Oh, yeah.
And happy for myself. But my heart was broken for her. I could, the grief. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Chase. So Liela, we weren't planning on kids, any more kids. We were done with the 3.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting pregnant again. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But we were fine with that.
Yeah.
So we got rid of all our baby stuff. But the story behind it is bigger than that. And I'm going to try to give you the clip notes.
Yeah.
We were done with the 3. And then all of a sudden, I just felt... I always thought that I was going to have 4. And then I was going to have a girl. And the girl was going to give me a run for the money. But I gave up on that dream.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you're
that's
good.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I just... One week, it was so strong. Like, everywhere I went, everyone that I talked to, they were either having a baby, they were adopting. Every magazine in the, checkout line was about
Isn't that crazy
a baby or something.
happens? Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my gosh, I think I'm supposed to have
sign.
another kid. So that night, I'm making dinner, dishing up dinner. Eric's sitting at the counter, and I plop his food down on the plate, And he's ready to take his first bite. And I'm like, so Eric, I think we're supposed to have another kid. Plop. The hand just falls right down,
Yes.
Jaw drops down too. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I think we're supposed to have another kid. He's like, oh, no. I mean, I'm making Eric to be like this big crab. He's
No.
But he's like, no, we're done. We have 3. We like to travel all the time. My husband owns an internet marketing company, so we're able to he can go anywhere as long as there's high speed internet.
Yeah.
So we're
Which is awesome.
at the time we would travel about once or twice, once every 2 months for about 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we go to all over different parts of the world.
I'm so jealous
And
of that.
he's like, we're at this great place now. Lucas is no more strollers, no more bottles, no more diapers.
Yeah,
everyone's pretty independent. Why would you want to start all over again?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't. But I feel like we're supposed to. And he's like, okay, I'll make you a deal. If you can't get pregnant within 6 months, we'll just say it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Because he figured that we probably wouldn't because we weren't getting pregnant anyways, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, deal. Over the counter and the slop on the plate. And anyway, a couple days later, Eric was a little more in a humble place, I think. And he kind of pulled me onto his lap and he's like, okay, I'm going to say something to you. And I don't want it to incriminate me forever and you're going to use this against me. But he's like, I had been praying. He's like, I had been praying because you had always mentioned that you thought there was a 4th out there somewhere. And so I'll just put it out there. I'm going to pray. If we're supposed to have a 4th child, then, and I'm too dunce to feel it, have Mindy feel it double for the both of us. And I just burst into tears and I'm like, see? I knew it.
That's a good husband.
I knew you were going to do that. So anyway.
See, I'm always right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then one day, one of my really good friends, she actually adopted from my mom's agency too. I was at her house late at night and we were kind of planning some kind of a party. I don't know. It's always a party.
I know. Always. I love it.
And I was feeding the baby and I was like, you know what? I'm just afraid of having another kid. I've had 2 emergency C-sections. I just don't know if that's the right route. She's like, well, what about adoption? Does adoption scare you? And I'm like, boom. I felt like a warmth and a confirmation of, no, it doesn't scare me at all, actually.
Yeah, I could do that.
I can do that. Whoa, now what? You know? And shortly after that, it ended up being Memorial Weekend. And we were going to head out with my sister that's Korean also. And she at the time had 2 kids, her son Xander, who she adopted, and then her son Grayson, who is 8 months younger. So now that's Irish twins.
Yeah.
And we were going to all head out to go do the nerdiest thing and go rock hounding for Topaz at Topaz Mountain.
Yes.
And so we're supposed to be ready and out the door. Yeah. You know, Eric's filling up the cooler. I'm still in my underwear. You know, I'm standing there. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. He's like, why are you dressed? Where's your pants?
Yeah.
You know?
What are you doing?
And I'm like, because I feel something and my mom. So I got to backtrack. I'm like going ahead again. I'm trying to rush. My mom had called me on Saturday and told me that there was a baby that was going to be born. And it was Xander. So the sister that I'm going with, my nephew and everybody, it was Xander's birth mom.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. But Kinsey at the time, she was going through some difficulties in her marriage. Mm-hmm. And her 2 kids were so close in age. She's like, there's no way, 1, logistically that we could do it. But 2, she's like, we're having problems in our marriage.
Yeah. This isn't going to work.
But I was like, oh, man. My mom's like, but you, Mindy, I heard, are feeling that you're supposed to have another baby. And I'm like, I am. Yeah. I am. But I don't know. Whoa, that's really, that's like soon. She's like, well, it's not that soon. She's due in a month. Do you know what she's having, a boy or a girl? Because I always thought I was having a girl.
Oh, yeah.
And my mom's like, no, we don't know yet. And my mom's like, you have a month to think about it. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
The next day, Sunday, I'm walking into church. My mom calls me. I'm like, Mom, I'm walking into church. She's like, but Mindy, baby was born. Baby was born? She's like, baby was born. She's early, 5 weeks, and it's a girl. I was like, it's a girl. I was like, oh.
Shoot.
Still, I didn't feel it, though. I didn't feel it like Chase. I didn't feel like Chase.
Yeah.
So this is where this story is different. And I'm going to try to rush because I know our time.
You're fine. You're totally fine.
The reason why this story is different is because sometimes you're prepared and you're ready when you hear about a situation or something right comes up and you're ready for it.
Right.
But sometimes something that is right and it comes up, but you're not ready for it, you might not feel it. But it doesn't mean that it's not right. Eric and I had to go through steps, and we had to do those steps quickly because that was Sunday. She was born.
Yeah.
The next day is Monday. So I told him, I'm like, you know what, Mom? I don't feel the same thing that I do with Chase. So maybe this baby's not ours.
Yeah.
You know? And we go to Eric's parents for like a birthday dinner. And my mother-in-law hears this and she's like, oh my gosh, are you guys talking about like adopting another baby? Because she's like, I haven't told you this because I didn't want to like freak you out. But I had a dream that you guys had a baby. Okay. Also, that day, my friend that we did carpool together, she would drive our kids, Lucas, to preschool and some other kids in the neighborhood. And he kept telling her for like a month or months that he was having a baby. He was going to have a baby sister. What? I didn't know that. Isn't that crazy?
That is so crazy.
So anyways, so that night, my mother-in-law's like, well, why not? Why couldn't this baby be yours? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel it the same way that I did with Chase. And I'm like, okay, this is really a dumb reason, but it like stresses me out. I like hair is a big deal to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I don't know how to do her hair.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to do her hair? And my mother-in-law was like, well, that's a silly reason not to want to adopt the baby. Mindy, you'll figure it out. Yeah. I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe she could be mine. And as soon as I said that, boom, that was what I needed to say. Sometimes when things are right and we're not prepared for it, we're not ready, sometimes we just have to recognize it and admit it.
Yes.
And that's the first step. So that, I felt it. And my mother-in-law was like, well, have you prayed about it? I believe in prayer. I do.
I do too.
And I'm like, no, I haven't prayed about it. And I'm kind of scared to pray about it. So I pulled Eric downstairs. We prayed about it. And it was interesting because it wasn't like this big, strong feeling, but the feeling was peace. Yeah. And it was like, wait till tomorrow. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So the next day, we're back to Topaz Mountain getting ready for it. I'm pantsless, you know. Eric's rushing around.
Yeah.
And my mom calls me again. She's like, Mindy, you got to make a decision. This baby is now by herself in the NICU. You know, her mom has been able to be discharged. This baby's alone. We need to find a family.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll pray about it one more time with my family. And then I felt what I feel is the Spirit. So I felt a warmth inside, kind of prompting me to pray, but pray this time with my boys. So Eric and I like grabbed our boys. They're hopping up and down on the bed. They're so excited because they know that there's wind, that there's a possibility of a baby.
Yeah.
And so I tell them
cute.
that I think we need to pray about it. And so we pray. And this time, basically, my prayer was like, Heavenly Father, I feel almost like embarrassed to say, but I need almost an anvil to fall on my head. And I need all the fear to change into excitement.
Yeah.
And so I say amen. The kids, go to the car. I go to put some pants on. And then my best friend calls me. She was pregnant with a little girl, and she was about 8 months at the time. And she's like, well, Mindy, what do you think? What's going on? She wanted to raise these girls together. And I said, her name is Tiari. I was like, Tiari, I think she might be mine. And as soon as I said that, all the fear left and all the excitement came. And I was bawling. We were screaming. It was amazing. Eric came in. I'm still pantsless. I give him a big hug.
Gosh, I'm getting chills.
And then we went off, and that the rest is history. Miracle after miracle after miracle happened after that to get us ready. And that might have to be another podcast to talk about that. It takes you a long time to get me here.
And now
now
I'm
I'll never
leave.
leave.
Yeah, I love it. I knew that would happen. That's why I'm like, you just have to come in one time and just see what it's about.
I know we didn't even really talk about like adoption things, like issues or feelings and all of that. Yeah. But all I can say, just to sum it all up, is that I know that adoption is a miracle. And to be able to work with birth mothers now, it's an honor. I tell them every time, it's an honor to work with you. And I don't care if they are homeless or if they've done drugs or if they made some bad decisions. Nobody can judge because they've never walked in their shoes. But it's an honor. They are bringing life into this world. And they're creating families like mine. And I am forever grateful.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's nothing I can say to top that.
Well, I said a lot of things today.
Yes.
And hopefully it made sense.
Yes, it made sense.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you did a great job. And
Thank
we're
you.
definitely going to have you back on here. Whether you like it or not.
I set myself up.
You did.
I
yeah.
did.
So now you're going to have to come back. And
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to talk about all of the feelings and, get even deeper into it with you. But that was great. Yeah,
I've, working with birth moms, it's been life-changing. And in the capacity as far as counseling goes.
Yeah.
It has changed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So women like you. So it's changed me. So I'm really humbled by it.
You're so sweet.
So going back to Liela, after we knew that she was ours, we had like a number of days to get ready. And most families, typically it takes them like 6 months to get everything together. That time that typically takes a family 6 months to get everything together, we did in like 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we had to go to Vital Records, get our criminal background screenings, abuse screenings. People that adopt, they have to go through quite the process. One of the main things is a home study. You have to get reference letters from relatives and non-relatives. You have to have insurance verification, your 1040s. There's a lot that you have to get.
Yeah.
And so while we're collecting all this information, it was a madhouse. I think if you guys remember right, we had just gotten rid of all our baby stuff because we thought we were done.
Yeah.
My friend heard that. I'm telling you guys, like within like 2 hours from our conversation and me telling all my close friends and family that I'm going to be adopting, and that we had gotten rid of all our baby stuff. Within a couple hours, I have a front foyer.
Yeah.
And it was full. Like my doorbell rang, and it was full of baby stuff.
Oh.
People, all my neighborhood family, all my friends had come together collectively and got a stroller and a high chair and a car seat and bottles and like a baby bath and receiving blankets and everything you could think of. It filled my foyer.
Oh my
and
gosh.
then while we were collecting, also, the doorbell just never stopped ringing. And people just kept coming over and bringing gifts. I'm talking, now I don't even think this is an exaggeration, actually. I think it was like probably 40 people.
Oh my gosh.
At different times, coming and dropping stuff off and giving us hugs and wishing us well and sharing love. And so now all of a sudden we're prepared. The last thing that needed to happen was our home study. And the social worker that did our home study is one of my buddies that I had worked with at Active Love. His name is Alan Saunders.
Yeah.
And I love him. He was coming to our home. But one of the things that's required in a home study is that all the outlet plugs have, all the outlets have the little plug, the little plastic plugs. I didn't have that. Eric, it was like it was a dark and stormy night. And it was rainy, and we were at Vital Records. I call my friend. I'm like, oh my gosh, Alan, the social worker, is going to be at our house in like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know, we're still here at Vital Records. There's no way I'm going to be able to get the little electrical plugs before he comes.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to have to come back.
Right.
So my friend's like, I'll take care of it. So she like sends out like this group text to people in the neighborhood. I'm talking like 15, 20 people arrive at my house with like random 4 plugs here, 3 plugs here, just whatever extra that
Where
they
do you
had on
live?
hand.
I'm going to come be your neighbor.
I live in Daybreak. It's heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Another
love
plug
Daybreak.
for Daybreak.
For Daybreak. My best friend lives in Daybreak, so we're there all the time.
Yeah, I'm an official Daybreaker.
Yeah.
And so all these people arrive at my house, and this is what's cool. You know, it could have been any number. It could have been more.
Yeah.
It could have been a little less. It was the exact amount
Oh my gosh.
of outlets that I had in my house. That's the exact amount of plugs that came.
And
we're talking like these are like a bunch of people with random amounts of plugs. And I believe that God just wanted us to just validate that this is right.
Yeah,
with
this is
that
the right choice.
That was one of the things. Another thing is we needed medical clearances just to make sure that we were healthy and we weren't going to die.
Yeah.
You know, anytime soon.
That's kind of important. Yeah.
Yeah. And the kids needed it too.
Yeah.
So anyways, my he wanted to switch doctors anyways. So he's like, this is the perfect time. Do you mind if I find another doctor that can get us in today? I'm like, yes, we need to.
Yeah.
Like for time.
Right now.
So he gets us into this doctor. Never met him. Never heard of him. And that was that. We end up, so everything happens the way that it needs to. We're approved now, and we can go to Alabama. Now, remember the doctor, okay? Because this is going to be really important in the story. So we're in Alabama again. We're in Alabama, Birmingham, and we're headed to the hospital. And my husband's like, "Are you sure that this was the right decision?" And I'm like, Are you seriously asking me this right now? Like, you could have asked me that yesterday. We are like almost in the hospital.
Even like on the airplane,
we can't like
maybe.
change our minds now. This is too late. I'm all the way in.
Yeah.
You know? And so he's like, okay, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So we arrive at the hospital. We meet the social worker. She's like, are you ready to meet your baby? We're ready to meet our baby.
Yeah.
So this little scene of the story always makes me emotional because Liela, I had mentioned before, she is such a bright light. She's like constantly moving. Her physical capabilities are more than the average person.
Yeah.
Like she's really good in gymnastics.
Yeah.
She's just really good at everything. Really. And she lights up our life, and she makes me pull out my hair at the same time.
Yeah.
She's always making messes.
I have one of those
but she's
too.
amazing.
Yeah.
And anyway, we go into the NICU. They open up the big doors, you know, the magnetic doors. And the NICU is all lit up with cute little baby decorations, each little, you know, section with a baby, their little crib, you know, and the parents, you know, kind of decorated to make it feel homey.
Yeah.
You know, it's all lit up and light up. It's all lit up and full of light. And you keep walking, and then at the very end, there's like this curtain, like in the corner, and they like pull it back, and in this dark little corner, just dark. See, that's why it's so.
Oh my gosh!
It gets my little heart, because Liela is such a light, and so it's such a contrasting thing now to think back. But that little corner was dark, and she's laying bundled up in her little crib. And Eric and I walk up to her, you know, and we're just crying. And we look at the most beautiful baby laying there in a little tie-dye blanket. And me choked up, trying to get the words out. I was like, I'm so sorry it took us so long. You know, it was a process.
Yeah.
And my husband, you know, if you remember, being the grumpy guy that's like, are you sure we're making the right decision? He was crying. He had tears. And he just was speechless. You know, we were just so elated and happy and at peace. We knew that this was the right thing. Yeah. And I'm like, can I hold her? And they said, yeah. And so I like lift her up, and I'm holding her, and we're just crying. You know, we're holding her and crying. We're looking at all her little fingers and her toes and her perfect little nose and mouth and everything. And she's little because she was premature. Yeah. But so we're just like doting over her now. We're sitting on a chair, we're doting, and her NICU doctor comes in. Wants to get some, you know, just some information on us so that he can contact us and he can contact the doctor. So while we're doting on baby, and he's kind of listening, and he's typing in information to the computer, and he goes and he says, okay, if you guys can give me your number. And we're like, okay, blah, 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 blah. We give him the number, and he's like, oh, 801. Are you guys from Utah? And we're like, yeah, we're from Utah. He's like, oh, I love Utah. He's like, you know, we go out there about once a year to go ski. I'm like, oh, great. You know, we have a little chit chat about it. And then he keeps typing, type. And then he's like, so what is your doctor's name? And we're like, oh, I don't know. He's new. Eric, what's the doctor's name? And Eric's like, and I don't even really fully remember. We have it written down somewhere, but it was like Dr. Brexton. And the NICU doctor, he's like, just stops in the middle of typing. And he's like, did you say Dr. Brexton? And then we're like, yeah. And he's like, huh. And he just is like, and he's just standing there. And we're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he's like, this is interesting. He's like, so are you guys like members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Well, he referred to it as, are you Mormon? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, well, so am I. Well, I am, but I'm not. Like, I was baptized, but I don't go anymore. But he's like, but my wife does. And he's like, when I was first baptized, we were in a ward in a church. And he's like, and we got married by a doctor. It's either Brexton or Bexfield or something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
He's like, we were married by a Dr. Bexfield.
Yeah. And
he's like, I wonder if that's his son. He's like, I never hear that name very often. Yeah. And we're like, I mean, the world is small. Yeah. It could be. He's like, I'm going to look into that. And so, like, the next day he tells us, you know, guess what? That doctor, it is his son.
No way.
Isn't that crazy?
That is so crazy.
It's so crazy. He's like, his dad married me and my wife.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so at that point, he tells us, you know, I know that you guys were looking forward to being able to go home because ICPC, so Interstate Compact, is where all the laws are met. So birth mom is from Alabama. We're from Utah. They had to make sure that Utah laws and Alabama laws are met in order for us to leave Alabama and come back to Utah.
Right.
That was approved. Usually that takes a lot longer. Yeah. So we thought we can go home. Yay, go on the airplane. But doctor tells us, no. He's like, I actually don't feel like she's too little still. I don't think her lungs could be able to handle the pressure on the plane. I think she needs at least 1 to 2 more weeks. We're like, what?
Oh, no.
So my husband needed to go back to work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man, I had 3 other kids at home that I was missing.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I guess if this is the way it's going to be, then this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
So he heard us kind of talking about it and sharing our woes and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And then he's like, I'm going to leave for a minute and I'll be right back. And we're like, okay. He's gone for maybe like 15, 20 minutes. He comes back and he's like, okay. He's like, this is something that I normally have never done. I've been a doctor for, I don't know what he said, like 40 years. It had been a while.
Yeah.
He's like, this isn't something I've ever done. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I have a really good feeling about you guys. You guys are good people. Mm. And he's like, I just called my wife and I asked my wife if she would be willing to take you in while you wait. So then that way you guys have somewhere to stay for free. And I can check up on the baby, make sure she's doing well during that time. Yeah. And then as soon as I think she's ready, she can go home. Mm. I know that's a lot because I'm a stranger. And I was like, woo. So I'm like, we were like just dumbfounded, you know? Wow. That's nice. Crazy. That's so nice and slightly scary. Yeah. But we're like, you know,
makes me a little anxious.
We're like, what do we do? What do we do with that? Yeah. And so we talked about it and I'm like, well, do you think, he's Jack the Ripper or do you think he's like, this is a really amazing thing? Yeah. And we've just both felt like this is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And so we went back and we said, yeah, this is a good thing. And we'd be honored. And so he and his wife welcomed us in with open arms.
Wow.
And their son, Raleigh, and he was in high school at the time. And Eric stayed with us for a couple days and then he had to go back to Utah. And so I was with this family for almost a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And we were, by the end, Doctor and I, we're like watching movies. We're like watching Selma. He's getting takeout, We're so passing fun. The baby back and forth. Aww. So we've stayed in touch with him actually through all these years.
That's so cool.
Yeah. We took Chase and Liela back for their fall break to go back to their states that they were born so they could see, the hospital that they, were born at, where their birth moms were from. The places that we stayed. So it was really special for them. So we took Liela back to Alabama and we went and met up with the doctor and his family. And they have actually come out to Utah too and had dinner with us.
Oh my gosh.
We exchange Christmas cards every year.
Yeah.
In touch through social media. Yeah, it's really great. He loves See's Candy. Another plug. And he sees candy and we send him chocolate, every so often because he loves it.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so crazy. I love all the connections that adoption brings.
There's so many connections.
Yeah.
And so that kind of sums up Liela, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. See, you have really interesting stories. And everyone's going to love listening to them. I know that.
So let me see here. So I just wanted to share some stories with birth moms that I've had recent.
Yeah.
I just feel like it needs to be shared. So there's been a couple, and, most birth parents to get in a position where you end up placing a child for adoption, there's got to be a lot going on to get to that place.
Yeah.
A lot of people just think that they're just... this terrible stigma that they're just being selfish or, don't want to, raise their own kid,
Yeah.
And it's not like that. No. There's obviously a lot of things that lead you to that point. And this particular birth mom, she, had been through a lot in her life, abuse and different things, and had gone the route of, using drugs and alcohol, and a lot of people in the world would look down on this person. How could you do that? For one, just being a human being, but two, do that when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Right. And so she had expressed that like hospital staff and different people, part of the reason why she didn't have prenatal care was because of the way she was treated because of the decision she's made.
Right.
So anyways, she ends up coming to Utah, and I meet her face to face in Active Love, the office in the conference room. And I'm sitting across from this woman who has been judged, who was homeless, who has, experienced life 10 times more than most. Mm-hmm. And, we talk about, divine intervention or God being involved. I believe that God, just in his tender ways, let me feel that I needed to share a message with this birth mom. Mm-hmm. So I sat across from her. We had filled out a bunch of paperwork, and I just reached my hand out, and I was like, I just want to let you know that you are loved and that you matter. You matter. And she just welled up with tears. She's a pretty tough girl. Mm-hmm. She needed to be. And she welled up with tears. And I think that was she's like, that's the first time I think I've ever heard that before. Thank you. That means a lot. And I just grabbed her hand, and I couldn't help, but tear up. And it was just like, yeah, you matter. And that's happened before. Just recently, I told another birth mom the same thing, that she mattered and that she was starting a new chapter of her life. That's mm-hmm. what needed to be shared with her.
Yeah.
And that we were there to help her do that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just about the end product of a baby going to an adoptive family. It was about the birth mom. I always tell the birth moms, I'm like, my purpose is for you. I'm your advocate. Mm-hmm. I'm by your side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever is in your best interest, I will do whatever it takes to help you to accomplish that. And to let you feel loved and to feel like you matter and that you're important. So yeah. And that when you go back home, that you know that you're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting because sometimes when you work in adoption for a long time, especially with birth parents, there's different ways that you can take it. You can it just becomes mundane and just mm-hmm. normal and like a business, mm-hmm. In and out, in and out.
Yeah.
Another way is you can kind of get cynical.
Yeah.
And pessimistic and like, oh man, there's just red flags. I don't know if this is going to work out.
Yeah.
But the way that I like to take it is being optimistic. And the reason why I feel this way is because I believe that all these birth mothers, that they are children of God. And I believe that he is 100% aware of them and their situation individually. He knows them by name, and he knows the things that they're going through that led them to this place in life. And somehow, in some amazing way, I am blessed to work with them and to cross paths with them. And I know that the only way to be is optimistic, because whatever happens with this birth mom and whatever choice that she may make, wherever this baby may end up being, that God is in control. And going with that, miracles happen. He is aware. God loves his children, not just these babies, but these birth moms.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could just say an anthem of just, everybody matters. But birth moms, they hold a special place in my heart because they are the closest people that I know that have made the greatest of sacrifices, selfless sacrifice. People may say, oh, whatever, it was selfish, or they were in a bad place, it was better for them. Yeah. No, you do not know, because you've never been there before. I've never been there before, But I know they're one of the most selfless people in this world. And that includes you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
It's really sweet of you.
I'm so glad that we had a little bit of extra time.
Me too.
And I think it's kind of meant to be.
I do too. I needed to hear that today, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I appreciate all that you're doing because I think your perspective is different from a lot of people. And I think if people could just humble themselves and just, like you said, put themselves in others' shoes. I mean, not even just like with work, but just in general.
Right.
Just love people and forgive people because we have no idea what they're going through.
Exactly.
And support them in any way you can. So thank you for what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Thank you. And, and just life is hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it's so hard.
But miracles are everywhere.
Yeah.
Miracles have not ceased.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
agree.
the message of the day, I think.
Thank you so much, Mindy.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
It was an honor.